Good morning, November 12th. Welcome. I'm here with Mando, James,
Hey guys.
CTO Larson, and myself, Marty Party. This is a great show, guys. We're in the midst of a bull run. Probably one of the best events in crypto history, I'd say, this last week since the Trump election. And we're going to get right into it. We're going to call the show Bitcoin's Big Boom, and we're going to cover all the highlights. So how are you guys doing? Let's go around the room quickly. Everyone give a quick update on your incredible week.
Go ahead, I'm doing well. I've quit my job, clearly. Just chilling out, going on holiday. It's been a crazy week. Obviously, I've been in more of the left curve stuff, like the meme coins, which have just gone absolutely insane over the last week. But I think it's been impossible to have a bad day in crypto, bad week in crypto, in my opinion.
That's right. Yeah, you can throw.
I'm also taking a break from McDonald's for a few days.
James, how are you doing?
Good. It's been the most incredible making week I've ever seen in my life, 35 years, which has been bonkers. So everybody's good, but this is the time where sometimes people start to panic. I don't know why. Maybe because they're not in the right assets or whatever. So hopefully we can bring them some calm and relaxation as we go forward. Over to you, Marty.
I had a great time. I went on a golf tour. As you know, I missed last week's show. I'm back. Had a good time. I was actually on tour during the Trump election. That was really cool, and had a good celebration around all of those events and the big pump. But I'm back now, and so we're going to cover all the key events, guys. So let's just dive right into it. We don't have much time. Obviously, we want to talk about the number one key event, which was the Trump election. So we saw Trump win with a landslide and immediately start to, lay out his plans, which include many pro-crypto appointments and reiterating all of the things he said along the way, making, I guess, crypto pump to the moon. And we also saw that happen in real time. Everything we had said would happen pretty much happened, guys. We're pretty much dead on with all our predictions on the Trump election. Just let's quickly go around the room one more time. Just give me your thoughts on the Trump election, Mando. What did you think about it? How did you feel about it? Did you think the reaction was correct? Any thoughts on the Trump election? And then we won't touch on politics again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I only really looked at it in terms of crypto, but I guess I suspected that he was having a good finish just because of his performance on something like the big podcasts and the viewership it was getting. It just felt like that. It's difficult to judge it because I think X is, it can be slightly right-leaning in my opinion. And I was unclear if the information that I was getting was more in that sort of bubble. But I was very unsurprised then when it went through with a clean sweep. Kind of showed that, the poly market stuff was right all along. There's a lot of criticism of that going into it. Which is very interesting to see, like that people trusted polls over the betting markets, and the betting markets ended up being right kind of the whole time. So I think that's a bit of a vindication for crypto as well, which I thought was good. And then the reaction is what I thought would happen. I really felt like we could teleport a lot higher. That's how I was positioned. That's how I kept on saying that we would hit all-time high kind of the day before or the day of the election. We ended up hitting it just I think the day after. And then from there, it's kind of gone from strength to strength. It feels like the one thing that surprised me is how strong Bitcoin dominance has stayed throughout this period. Like it actually increased. There's a brief dip over the last few days, but then it's gone back above 60% again. That's the only surprising thing for me, that I felt like we were going to have. I felt like the altcoins would lead a little bit more, and actually Bitcoin's been just keeps on going.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, let's be real, guys. We saw $21,000 move in Bitcoin in 7 days since the election. Let's be serious. That's probably the largest weekly candle in history. James, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. And this reflects, as you can see there, the pro innovation, pro crypto, pro disruption movement. So I was thinking, because I'm very heavily positioned in all those things, if it went the other way, I would have been murdered in the markets. But I was pretty confident and spent 2 months making sure we had the right thing. But even stocks and commodities rallied, and investors anticipate a pretty good future over the next couple of years. Not being political is just a fact of life. Less warfare and lawfare, whatever they call it, and stuff like that. So net all positive. Huge.
Yeah, I think loosening of the regulations is a big thing, and I think the markets have shown that they're more optimistic with the looser regulations. CTO, what's your thoughts from the election? How did it go your side? How are you feeling today?
I think it's so interesting. I think we were very right here to see that if Trump wins or if he gains in the polls, markets will move forward, and probably could have gone the other way if the outcome would have been differently. But I think if I can share the screen here, I think what is so interesting is really the poly market results here, because we talked about it. Was it only last week? It was, right, when we saw that there was this huge lead for Trump in poly market, and this was not reflected anywhere else in all the mainstream media. At this time, it was showing that it was, equal in all the mainstream polls, and everyone criticized what is, that it's all manipulated and it's all garbage. And one interesting thing that I learned was that the French whale that everyone said that is there to manipulate the market, he just had better data. He had commissioned a poll which didn't ask people how they were going to vote. Instead, his poll ask people how their neighbor will vote, how they think their neighbor will vote, which took out all the embarrassment from the answer. And then in his poll, Trump won a landslide victory, and that's why he went in and bet 30 million, 40 million. So in the end, it wasn't manipulation, it was just better data. And
yeah, I mean, everyone can agree that polymarket stock went up on this just with this prediction. And general pollsters and pollster companies went down. I mean, polls are clearly manipulated, and I think people will discredit them from now on. But I think the winner was X and Polymarket and the crypto industry in an incredible prediction. Let's move on to the implications of this win. I want to just touch on Bitcoin as digital gold next. Since the election, we've seen a lot of statements from state leaders, economic leaders from each state. Including Jimmy Patronis, I don't know if you guys are aware, the CFO of Florida State, advocating for Bitcoin as digital gold. We've got Cynthia Loomis talking about the strategic reserve. All of the things we were talking about are rolling. And it just seems like every day there's new news about another state. And as I've always said, states control this country at the end of the day. And it seems to be a snowball of states now flipping to appreciate Bitcoin and to want to put it into their strategic reserve. Let's talk about the implications of that. Amanda, what are your thoughts? If states start to embrace Bitcoin as a reserve asset, do you think that puts pressure on the federal government?
I think it puts pressure on federal governments all around the world. I'm still unclear whether this will pass. It is quite a radical bill compared to, let's say, crypto policy, like tokenization policy, DeFi policy, stablecoin policy, which the US doesn't have. The idea that they would make Bitcoin a reserve currency, I do think is still pretty radical for Washington. That being said, there was a ton of people that just went in, over 250 different people were elected who are pro crypto at the recent elections. There's obviously been a clean sweep as well. So you've got a clean sweep across the House, the Senate, and I don't know. New president coming in, they're probably going to want to try and pass as much as they can. There's a chance. There's a chance that this goes through. Just riding the wave of what Trump has already said, and just because of the pro crypto candidates that have been put in, this was not really. I didn't think this would pass. I still was I thought this was an outside chance. It now feels like that's closer to like 50-50 in my opinion, and that is a huge deal because if this happens, I think Bitcoin goes to $1 million.
That's right. I think we've all said that you can do all the technical analysis in the world and all the predictions, but if any of those events happen, I think if stablecoin regulation passed in the US, or if Bitcoin does become a reserve of a state officially or the federal government, I think we see a super cycle, which no one can really predict. I agree. James, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin as a reserve asset in the states, the federal government, and as a sovereign reserve? What are your feelings? Do you think it's feasible? What's your percentage chance right now? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got excited by Bitcoin first in 2017 because of scarcity. And it was only a matter of time, and I didn't know if it was 20 years from then or 10 years or whatever, that the true game theory, I spent a lot of time studying game theory as well, would kick in. And now we have a situation, Samson Mao, he said back in July of 2024, if I'm not mistaken, somebody can pull up that original tweet. He says next year, Bitcoin's going to $1 million. And I was like, what the shit, maybe? Because I know he's working with some nation states and he sees things behind the scenes that maybe we don't. So do the team at Tether, by the way, too. There's a lot of stuff we're not privy to, but he just said this 16 hours ago. Imagine Berkshire, Apple, Microsoft, all buying at the same time. Well, MicroStrategy is trying to deploy 42 billion, and the US is trying to acquire 1 million Bitcoin for the strategic reserve. And that doesn't include anybody else. That's how we get to 1 million real fast. And this doesn't mean any of this could happen. We know Saylor is going to do what he's going to do. He's going to drop 42 billion, then 100 billion, then 200 billion. He said it very clearly, and he's a man of his word. What he says, he does. And he can get there pretty quick. We can talk about that infinite money glitch later if you want to. But this is a really interesting thought experiment. And that's just a couple of names right there. And I think that's what people really need to understand about Bitcoin and the whole scarcity thesis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always called it an arms race. And if you look at the top, the top holders, I keep track of it, you'll see that BlackRock acquired 49,755 Bitcoin since Trump was elected. BlackRock is now solidly in number 3 behind Binance, but approaching Binance. So we may see BlackRock actually take Binance, which might be interesting. The other shakeup, guys, in the arms race, Fidelity is just behind BlackRock, but MicroStrategy has moved into number 5 with their recent acquisition. Michael Saylor bought another 27,200 Bitcoin, bringing their total to 280,000, right behind Fidelity. And Grayscale slipping down to number 7. Very interesting shakeup, but you can see the arms race. Now, imagine when when sovereign governments start to report and start to get into this game. And obviously from corporation reserves, I think that's the most exciting part. We all know Microsoft has been very hush-hush on the results of their vote to purchase Bitcoin as a reserve. The shareholders voted. Last show that I was on, we talked about that. But can you imagine if a Microsoft or somebody makes the move? That'll have a domino effect. You'll have to see Meta, Amazon all follow suit. So you're going to have a multi-headed attack on the remaining Bitcoin, which right now is 2.3 million on exchanges. And I have reports all of yesterday about OTC supply crunch. Apparently, there is extremely low volume of Bitcoin available on OTC desks, which I think is part of the pump we've seen over the last days. Is just a supply shock on the OTC desks. In other words, off market. Now, when that ends, we know what they got to do. They got to start buying from the market. And that's where we see God candles. So,
and in fact, we had the second biggest day ever for the ETFs. And just yesterday alone, even though we had a record day of nearly a $10,000 candle, 12,580 Bitcoin were consumed. It's 28 times daily issuance across 9 ETFs. These numbers are astronomical, and most of that is BlackRock, a little bit of Fidelity, and that is what's crazy. And you mentioned MicroStrategy, and people still don't understand MicroStrategy. But if you look at what they did when they bought that 27,200 Bitcoin, this maybe, I'm always trying to find ways to help people wrap their heads around what they're trying to do. If you imagine the gains, the unrealized paper gains that they made in a couple of days, they bought at 74K, 74.4, and the price went to 88K. That's $14,000 per Bitcoin just on what they acquired, the 27,200. That is a profit of nearly $2 per share in days. This is how you appraise typically a stock. It's based on future earnings, whether realized or unrealized or whatever else. That's what people don't get. That's why people are just FOMOing into MicroStrategy, getting it because they can manage it. It has very deep liquidity. The volumes, trading volumes are like top 10 out there in the market right now from all assets. It's completely insane what's happening. And we're all witnessing history live. So exciting time.
There we go. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, let's move on. Some things I wanted to just remark on. We've all seen gold has dropped almost 8% since the election as well, which is quite interesting. We should talk about that. But it appears as if there has been a small move from gold into Bitcoin. triggering this rally as well. So gold might be contributing too. So the thought is that because of the Trump victory, people might think that the wars might end, which is always, going to sell gold down a little bit, and stimulate business, etc., which is good for the stock market. And obviously, we've seen the results on Bitcoin. But Mando, what are your thoughts on gold? Why do you think gold is pulling down? It's now 2598 from a high of 2800, 8% down this week. Any thoughts on gold and why it's coming down? And then we'll talk about oil. I think oil is also interesting with the OPEC meeting this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bitcoin bulls would say, hey, we're taking away interest from gold. I saw, interestingly, that the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF notably passed the gold ETF for AUM this week. And remember, that's a big deal because BlackRock's paid fees off the back of that. So if the Bitcoin ETF continues to be its biggest ETF or gets close towards its biggest commodities ETF, all of their salespeople will continue to be selling it. Like, that is their number one winner. I think the main thing, though, here, and just to kind of zoom out a little bit, is what's been going on in macro. So since Trump got in, one of the other very interesting things that has happened is that the dollar has gone up a lot. The dollar's at a one-year high right now. Bond yields have shot up as well. And so any dollar-based assets, particularly commodities, has gone lower on the back of that. So part of the move in the gold and oil is just because the dollar's actually strengthened very, very strongly. And that is because the market is essentially saying that they think that Trump will lead to inflation. And breaking that down, they think that, and this is kind of known, Trump has been saying he's going to add tariffs against all the major exporters to the US, whether it's in Asia, Europe, UK, like he's talking about it for everyone. And so the market is saying, we think Trump leads to inflation. And inflation will mean interest rates stay higher for longer and that and the dollar stays stronger. So now the Federal Reserve actually cut interest rates last week. And they may cut them again next week. It's very, very predictive right now what the market's doing. Inflation's been kind of under control. It's still, CPI is and PPI this week. It's not been out of hand, but the market is predicting already that next year we're going to see a big bounce in inflation on the back of that, and that has meant that the bond yields of a dollar have gone higher. The Federal Reserve can't act on that yet because that would be very political if they were like, hey, we're not going to cut interest rates because we think Trump's going to cause inflation. But the market is already predicting that.
Right, just out of interest on the CME Group prediction market for the 18th of December meeting, we've got 65% chance right now from interest rate traders of a 25 basis point drop, 34% saying no drop. So just another aspect of this week, which is interesting, is the big OPEC monthly report, which will be released today, I believe. And we can see oil down at $68. One interesting correlation with crypto is we saw Tether reported on their X page quite proudly that they just executed the first large 670,000 barrel Middle Eastern crude oil trade in Tether. So we always spoke about, the move by Russia and other foreign countries to settle in crypto. It looks like that has begun as well. So oil has a new aspect to it as well. But any thoughts, James, on gold and oil and the macro? I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the gold acquisition has been made by central banks, particularly China, a little bit of India, etc., because of, they're worried about global debt and trying to somewhat back their fiat. And again, this ties into what we said at the very beginning, Treasury Reserve. There's nothing wrong with holding gold. I would never personally do it myself. But there's going to come a time that those central banks that hold gold are going to say, you know what? Why don't we make our allocation 5% to Bitcoin? And then things kick off as well. There's so many paths to this game theory exploding Bitcoin. It's unfathomable. This is also super interesting regarding oil. I've been talking for 3 years now about, we used to talk about the petrodollar. That'll be the petro Bitcoin at one stage. That's only a matter of time too. Now we already have petro stablecoin. Everything is moving to the blockchain and crypto, and it's an embrace or die situation. But this is a wonderful transaction. But the most interesting thing about this for me, it shows you the power of Tether. they can finance I can't remember how big the oil deal was. Let me try to figure it out, but it was monstrous.
It was 50 million. It wasn't a giant one.
Yeah, but I mean, as a side hustle, they're financing 50 million of oil. That's pretty impressive, and they're just an experiment right now. So again,
Absolutely.
it's good.
Very
All good.
exciting. Very good. Let's move on a little bit. Talk about the SEC delaying the Ethereum spot ETF. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. That happened this week as well, as expected. We all expect probably regulations to quieten down and these things to happen faster, but that did come out this week, delaying spot Ethereum ETF. Let's talk a little bit about
just
Tesla,
the options,
James.
though, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
man.
the options.
Yeah, just the options.
I think it's just the options that they delayed. Yeah.
And I believe it's only the New York Stock Exchange options as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. It was still yesterday was the best day for ETH ETF ever.
Yes, it was.
So I think there was some bullishness still around ETH. I don't know.
I mean,
today I believe Justin Drake, who's like a very well-known ETH researcher, proposed ETH 3.0. I don't know if you saw that at all, James, but
yes,
they're looking to try and change the how basically the consensus layer of ETH. Let's see. Like ETH upgrades take a decade, so well, that's being facetious, but yeah, they take a long time. But maybe people get behind that story. Maybe that causes some bullishness. I think it was just notable that ETH had that one good day, really, really strong, and then Bitcoin dominance went straight back up again. So I still don't know if ETH is the asset to own here. Interestingly, Coinbase stock is up 80% since the election. So we spoke about that quite a lot, the Coinbase versus ETH trade. I think Coinbase is still the best ETH trade out there.
And you nail that, Mando. It's funny because on DCA 2 weeks ago you said exactly the same thing, and then Coinbase took a dump on earnings, and then the election happened, and then it went to the moon. It was funny. It was like, so you're vindicated. Well done. But it was a roller coaster.
That's crypto.
Yeah, I think that's the right idea. I've always said the prior approach to Ethereum at this point is to rewrite consensus, and there we go. Today we see the tweet. That is exactly the right mood. I will look into that deeper, but I think that this is exciting for Ethereum. That'll be a big move. Let's just jump onto Tesla before we move on. Let's talk about Tesla. It's had another unbelievable run since the Trump election, hitting as high as I believe 350. Correct? And
last night it was at 365 in after hours.
365. Look at that.
Yeah.
James, do you want to talk to us a little bit as the resident Tesla expert? Tell us about Tesla since the election. What has heated us up? What does it mean for Tesla? Go ahead.
Well, it's been a monster move, a monster surge in a very short window of time. And Tesla was suffering for a long time from a lot of that warfare stuff. And now the market realizes, okay, Elon doesn't have to fight legal battles against the White House anymore and all the hundreds of departments that were set against him. So that has kind of unleashed things. Also, the fact that the EV tariffs could go away 20th of January is actually a huge benefit to Tesla, because the way that green law works, or whatever it's called, you could have they call it a vibrator-sized battery inside of a car, and you get the same tax credit. It's called a hybrid, and that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that will actually benefit Tesla as well. And then a big part of the election playbook is not just crypto; it's also energy dominance, storage. You know the Abbott guy in Texas as well. He's a rock star. He wants to turn Texas into the crypto capital. The U.S. wants to be the crypto capital. All of a sudden wants to be pro-crypto. And this will help things like energy storage that Tesla have in the back pocket too. SpaceX, AI, again, pro-innovation. Everything that's pro-innovation will do well. But the shorts got pretty badly mangled in that move. Yeah, so Tesla's up 150% since, I think, May, if I recall. And then the shorts lost a fortune, just 5.2 billion in 3 trading days, which is massive. And they've lost 75 billion over the last 10 years. So it's been a tough time for folks to be short in this market. So a large part of the big move as well probably was in part gamma squeeze too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the exact quote was from Greg Abbott this week was, Texas is already the home of crypto mining. It should become the crypto capital. So you're right. We've got a bunch of states competing now to be crypto capital. We've got Wyoming with Loomis. Now we've got Florida stepping up. We have Oklahoma signing Bitcoin rights. It's happening, people. It's just it'll be a snowball. I saw a map of the US with crypto-friendly states on it, and that's something to pay attention to. That might be the next narrative, is a bit of a competitive race, the judicial and legal and regulatory side of states for crypto, embracing crypto. And it might involve demographic shuffle. We don't know. People might move to states with a preferable crypto policy. It might be very interesting.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about altcoins before we move on.
Well, for CTO for a second, you became a Tesla holder as well recently. CTO.
No way.
How does the chart look?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been a big Tesla fan for a long time, actually. I felt that, I think we talked about it. James, you were much earlier than me, I think. But my realization with Tesla was really down here. It was before the split, so the times, the values were different. But this was really a big insight for me here in 2019. If anyone was following media at that time, it was full of coverage that Tesla is going bankrupt. Tesla is going bankrupt. And there was this, what was it called? Tesla Q or something like that.
Yeah.
There was like a movement of people trying to document how it was going down. They were like hiding outside the factories and documenting that Tesla was going bankrupt. And I was looking around, and all I saw was people buying Tesla. I looked around on the streets. I lived in Stockholm then. I saw Tesla cars everywhere. Everyone was talking about buying a Tesla. And I felt, okay, at least they are selling cars. So I felt that perhaps it's overstated. And also there was this key support level that kept holding so many times. And I felt that perhaps the whole narrative is manipulated. There are big players trying to buy, and they're trying to get no one else to buy. Support held, and then that was the point where it kind of shot up then thousands of %. And then since then, not so much has happened. Went into this long consolidation, support levels here, and then this downtrend of lower highs the whole time. And that changed, when was it, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. We talked about it on the channel, that had actually changed, that suddenly there were no longer lower highs. Trend turned up, we got the breakout, and price shot up here. So I think Tesla has been a great example, once again, of how the institutional traders don't understand technology. They missed it. Mainstream media was completely off the hook. And it's actually possible as like an individual person to observe something out on the streets, literally on the street, look at support and resistance, and beat all the Wall Street professionals. And I think Tesla is a wonderful example of that. And now it happened again. It's not that those times are gone. We talked about it here on the DCA show, that if Trump wins with Elon Musk so close to him, probably Tesla will pump, right? It doesn't take that much to come to that conclusion, but clearly it didn't pump then. It didn't pump. The pump came afterwards when Trump really won. And here we are. Now it's up from support down here. It's up 100%.
I think the key point you mentioned there, CTO, is the fact that retail can really outsmart Wall Street, and that's why we are all here. It's as clear as day.
Yeah, that's what's so amazing. We can sit here like four, dudes and talk about these things, and occasionally, come to the right conclusion. I think it's amazing.
I think the interesting thing as well is that Tesla now is number 8 top market cap, just behind Meta. It's literally 400 billion behind Meta, which is rightfully so. I believe Tesla should move up over Meta over the next weeks. Also, interesting enough, Bitcoin, it was past silver yesterday. It's in a tussle with silver for the number 8 top asset by market cap at 1.724 silver, and Bitcoin right now at 1.714. to move above silver. Only above that is Saudi Aramco, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and gold. But one would say Bitcoin with another 10 to 15% pump moves up pretty high. I think when Bitcoin comes just under Microsoft again, as it was, or if you look at total crypto market cap right now at 3 trillion, is sitting just below the mega giant Microsoft at 3.1. I think that move, if Bitcoin or if crypto passes Microsoft, that's going to get another wave of awareness. As Apple, Nvidia, etc., are going to have to make a move. Any thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, yesterday was beyond historic, and it's good you're showing this because Bitcoin eclipsed not only Meta in the same day, but also silver. And it was all driven by this massive, nearly $9,600 candle, which of course it receded. Nothing goes straight up, of course, but it was a historic time and a historic day. So, and I don't know when next we'll see nearly a $10,000 candle in a day, but it was pretty incredible.
Manda, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the situation with the yen. We all remember the carry trade unwound at the yen at 160 to the dollar. Well, it's been on a downward move since 139 now, approaching 154.5. Do you think there's risk of another carry trade unwind? What is your thoughts on the situation of the yen ruining the party once again?
Yeah, it could happen. You could have an intervention by the BOJ. They could come in and they could start selling their US treasuries again. I think it would be a strange time for them to do it. They did say that they would raise rates most probably in the new year, so we'll expect to see that. In the time since then, we've had Japan had an election, so did the US. It feels as though this is a trend around the world right now. The dollar is strengthening against the euro, against the yen, against the pound, against every major currency and every major EM currency. I think generally when that happens, you do start to see these like pockets of leverage get exposed to a certain extent, and that's kind of what happened with the yen next time. Last time, sorry. I'd be very unsurprised if we see a similar sort of thing. It may be at the yen, but it may be something else. You know, when the dollar moves this strongly, it exposes a lot of companies and countries which are borrowing in dollars and have to pay it back in their local currency. And since the US has been the world's reserve currency, whenever the dollar strengthens like this, normally something breaks. And it just depends how big it is. Like one country will decide that it can't repay its debt, and you'll start to see an increase in sovereign defaults like we've already seen. The yen probably has some stuff it can call upon, but I don't know if they're going to want to annoy Donald Trump at this stage. Like they might hold off.
All right, absolutely. CT, I know you wanted to talk about yields. Do you want to discuss yields at all and show us a yield chart? What's going on with the US bond yields?
I think Mando covered it beautifully because I was kind of, if I share the chart, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong tab. Let's share this tab instead. So here you can see the US dollar index. Of course, it's just relative to the other fiat garbage coins, but you can see here what Mando said, that the dollar strength has moved up from support just a few weeks ago, all the way up to resistance here. And the yields, the 2-year yield, that was like in breakdown mode. It had broken down the support and it was falling off a cliff. It has now climbed back into this range. So that is a definite change in the market from just a few weeks ago. So that is interesting. And I think Mando explained it beautifully, what this is about and what it depends on. But I think and also maybe just to complete the chart here, you can really see the change that has happened in gold. For the longest time, we had this breakout and just kept going up and up and up. That has changed now. No one don't need to know any technical analysis to see that. And I think apart from the reasons that Mando said, I think also there's a lot of investors who are now looking to more high-risk assets. Like gold seemed a really great investment here. It was breaking out from a generational resistance, and it was an easy trade. I entered leveraged entry gold here on the breakout. It's been a great trade because, with commodities, you can actually use the leverage. But now it starts seeming boring compared to everything else. And I thought a lot of people are maybe dumping the gold, going for Bitcoin and stocks and other more interesting, exciting assets, thinking that the Trump administration will lead to stimulation of those kind of assets, I think. But I think we have touched upon it. But what I'm dying to kind of get to is really this, like the Bitcoin dominance. Because my take real is this, that the previous administration, they were kind of okay with Bitcoin. Even Gary Gensler voted yes for the Bitcoin ETF and so on. Perhaps even in secret, he even liked it. But what they didn't like was everything else. All the altcoins, they were securities, they should be stopped, they were easy to go after. There are teams you can put in jail or threaten with litigation and so on, try to stop all the altcoins. And that has really shown during 2024 that all the altcoins have been catastrophe almost. Even, Solana is an exception. It's been flat, a little bit up versus BTC, but everything else has been like, you can pick any altcoin here. If looking at the BTC chart, it looks like this, and can like take any coin at random. It's just like dropping off a cliff. And for the whole of 2024. And we can see it also in the Bitcoin dominance, which has been steadily climbing in a straight line up. I think that kind of regulation should be even more beneficial to the altcoins compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin was okay, had the BlackRock already. Altcoins were not okay. Now I think they will get that kind of leeway. And we haven't seen that translated yet in the market. We saw the hint of it first, like yesterday. It started dropping here if we zoom in, or day before yesterday. But now it's kind of back again. So that is maybe the biggest opportunity here, I feel, that is kind of untapped.
You've stumbled on something very interesting, and that is this cycle, everything is different. So let me try to take a second to frame up this whole thing about dominance. In the old days, people waited for Bitcoin to pump. When it pumped and looked like it was running out of steam, they would sell, and then they'd pump that into altcoins. This time, the buyers are different. The buyers are MicroStrategy. The buyers are the ETFs. The buyers hardly know about the ETH ETF. They're not thinking about altcoins. So I don't know if this cycle, this alt season traditionally will happen. And a lot of people are asking as well. I'm just going to drop these two comments here because I'm interested in the perspective, and so is the audience. A lot of people now are concerned, okay, Bitcoin's out of steam. Everybody's hoping for 100K. That may never happen now. Some people are saying, oh, we could get 120K. I have actually become a lot more bullish over the last week than I was 2 weeks ago. And then this FUD happened, which could explain some of the dip today. Mt. Gox moved 2,500 Bitcoin. So, Marty, I'll drop these three issues with you all, and I'm interested in what Mando and you think about all season, the Gox FUD, and maybe are you more bullish on Bitcoin than ever before? Because I certainly am, based on the data.
Yes, I'm more bullish than ever before. The Mt. Gox thing I followed pretty closely. They've been moving actually for a little while now, here and there. No one's quite sure why. But as I've always said, I think Armageddon is priced in. I don't think this has much to do other than a narrative that might affect people to try and sell this top, cutting just short of 90,000. The interesting things, I think, is what you said before, which is this is a very different cycle. We can start with what we just spoke about, the DXY. I remember when I started trading crypto, everyone told me, crypto is inverse to the DXY. But now we see Bitcoin and the DXY moving up together. So that's out the window, right?
Yes.
Now,
and by the way, I'm so glad you said that, because I was saying that. It was like, how can you compare the cleanest, dirtiest shirt in the laundry to Bitcoin? It just doesn't make sense. It's like, so glad you said that.
No, absolutely. I mean, we see Bitcoin now, it's at dominance hitting nearly another high, 60.36. And everyone on the community of traders is already preparing for the rotation. So they're all going, well, Bitcoin for the next 2 weeks is going to run. So move out of your altcoins into Bitcoin, then move back. Everyone is trying to fit into the old cycle trade with the new cycle. And I think it's not quite the same. I have a theory that this cycle, because of the halving and the way everything happened a little bit, we ran up before the halving. Everything is a little accelerated, and I think we're seeing that continue. But what I find interesting is some of these insane dominances and altcoin pairings with Bitcoin over the last week. Like we see Binance Coin is now down to 3.15 dominance. It's dropped nearly 1% of dominance. No one can explain to me why Binance is falling off a cliff. It's also been extremely volatile. Ethereum dominance came down to 1372 and hanging around there. Look like it's pointing down. All the Bitcoin pairs, as you said, CTO, are struggling. Sol ETH ran up to 0.7, very strong against ETH, and has pulled back slightly. But at the end of the day, it just looks like it's a Bitcoin time. I think everyone is waiting patiently and believes that's going to be even a larger Bitcoin pump. And because of that, the question of where to move, I think everyone is struggling because they're coming from historic strategies, and the market has changed. This is a new market. We've got new buyers, and they trade differently. And we're seeing it in real time. But the Mt. Gox thing, they moved actually more than 2,500 2 weeks ago. No one really reported on it except me, actually. But it didn't really seem to affect the price. I don't think it does anymore. That's my perspective. I think the cycles have changed. I think now we've got to turn our eyes to potentially a macro cycle or a super cycle. I think 4 regular cycles make up a super cycle, and I think we're entering into the dawn of the first super cycle. And everything.
Let's debate a little bit. Let's debate a little bit. I think that it's still possible that the previous logic plays out. The previous cycles have gone like this. So Bitcoin goes up, then all the other coins get wrecked versus Bitcoin. Everything gets wrecked. US dollar, Ethereum, altcoins, everything gets wrecked in BTC terms. Then finally, Bitcoin stops at a much higher level. Everyone has made a lot more money, but Bitcoin isn't moving. Bitcoin is boring. And then that's when a lot of people take some of those profits and they're looking for the next, next golden nuggets, and they start putting them in much less liquid altcoins, which then go up massive amounts, even versus Bitcoin. I think that it's possible that the move just hasn't topped out yet. We're still moving up on this Bitcoin move, and I don't know when it will stop. But say it stops at some hypothetical number. If it jumps back there won't be any alt season. But if it holds there for a while and doesn't move, starts getting boring, perhaps we will start seeing some of these altcoins move. But I think there's another danger here, and that is that everyone expects then that the old coins will move. But looking at the previous cycles, it usually wasn't like that. It wasn't the old winners that kind of won the next cycle. It's new coins, new projects without so many bag holders waiting to sell. So I think that is still possible, and perhaps it will be new type of projects. And I think we need to be on our toes. But I think that could still come.
I think that the big elephant in the room that I'd like Amanda to talk about is meme coins. Meme coins always sort of precede the bull run. It's always the meme coins that go first. And we saw an egregiously huge pump on Dogecoin, up 102% this week, up to 52 billion. Amanda, what's your thoughts on that? Also, Shiba had a huge mood. Talk to us about meme coins. Look at them. They're blowing up. What's your feelings on that?
Yeah, I'll weave it into kind of what CTO said as well. I think in 2021, that's kind of what happened, CTO. Like Bitcoin would go higher, and then dominance would generally go down as altcoins moved up and people wanted to degen a little bit more. Weirdly, this cycle, Bitcoin kind of hit 65 to 70K back in February. And then all that happened is Bitcoin went sideways for 9 months, and Bitcoin dominance went from 53 to 60%. I think the fear here is does that happen, or do we get what happened in 2021 where Bitcoin dominance starts to come down? I thought this was the one chance where Bitcoin dominance could start to come down. Are we going to see that sort of a cycle? And it looks, it had that one dip down to 58, and then it's got bought all the way back up to 60%. So it's still dangerous to believe that you should sell Bitcoin this cycle. Meme coins, on the other hand, have really picked up again. And that's kind of, again, what happened for the last 6-9 months. Bitcoin dominance went from 53 to 60%, but a bunch of meme coins went a lot higher. And it feels as though we might be looking at a similar sort of move, even, or like it could happen again. Doge went to 60 billion today. The market cap of all meme coins went to 130 to 140 billion this week. That was trading at around 50 billion before the election. So big move across the board in meme coins. And interestingly, it was with Doge, which is kind of didn't have a good cycle up until that election. Now, part of that's an Elon trade, but meme coins now, there are 13 meme coins now in the top 100 coins. I think by the end of this cycle, that'll be close to 20 to 25. I think they'll make up 25% of the top 100 altcoins. And I think it could be even higher for the top 200. My general view is that we will see meme coins become a bigger part of crypto, even more than they have been so far. And I think, yeah, we could head up towards that sort of a level. But Doge going to 60, I think does changes the targets, let's say, for a lot of the coins below it. And there's a purity to it. Like people are out there right now thinking Doge could flip Solana. Doge is at 60 billion, right? Doge is at 60 billion. Solana's at 100, 120?
Yes, 98 right now, 98.
I think Doge could easily flip Solana. And it may not be for long, but it could. And I think that would be a massive wake-up call to
Amanda, I want to just bring awareness. If you look at the 24-hour trading volumes, I mean, just to give it some perspective, Bitcoin does around 150 billion a day in trading volume, Ethereum around 50 to 60. Dogecoin over the last 2 days is averaging 40 billion traded volume a day. That is just astounding. When you consider number 5, BNB is around 4 billion. 10 times more.
Like, everyone likes to knock on them because they do nothing, right? But like people want to buy them. People want to buy them because they've come here to gamble. And Doge also has a bit of a lore about it. Like if I was to pick which currencies actually are multi-cycle and could be a currency, like people would accept, you can imagine them accepting them at a store, the actual currency, right? Like, oh, we accept X. I reckon Doge is number 2 behind Bitcoin. I really do. Like if you went to a coffee shop and said, we accept Doge, I reckon they might. But I don't know if they'd say, hey, we accept ETH. They might accept a stable coin, but like I actually think that Doge is a currency, and it's like a mainstream currency. And so look, I'm super bullish on Solana. I'm super bullish on this other stuff. I'm just telling you that I think that move in Doge is telling you that meme coins are going to be here for the second half of this cycle. They dominated the last 9 months alongside Bitcoin, I would say, in terms of mind share activity, that sort of stuff. That move in Doge to 60 billion is telling you that they're going to be around. So it's something to pay attention to. Like you can keep on fading it, but they went from where at the start of this cycle about 12 months ago, I think the meme coin market cap was closer to 30 to 40 billion, and now it's at 130, right? And
yeah, I actually agree with you. I think Bitcoin and Doge are great assets that could become currencies. They just require layer 2s or something to make the execution faster, because they're both extremely slow. But there are a number of projects like Zeus, etc., that are building permissionless bridges for Bitcoin and Dogecoin. And I think if you see those things, I mean, that could be on Solana or Sui, but we see those things that with 500 millisecond settlements for Dogecoin and Bitcoin, I can't see why those things don't become currencies. I mean, obviously, the Elon Musk effect over the last week and Dogecoin being seen as a proxy for Elon Musk has powered this. So we'll have to see the sustained energy in Dogecoin, but 105% in a week is going to get a lot of eyes and potentially an ETF bid. I think Dogecoin could get an ETF.
There was a company that came out today. I forget the name of it, but they're classing themselves as the MicroStrategy of Doge. So they're going to do a MicroStrategy play with Dogecoin. And I've seen other hedge funds mention a similar sort of strategy before. But yeah, I just think that taking, again, a step back, I just think that if people were fading memes for the first half of this cycle, what Doge has just said, because now there's a lot of air between now Doge and SHIB and all the other coins that were popular in the first half of this cycle. I'm telling you, all of those chats are saying, hey, we're going to do a 10x. And before it was all Doge is at 20 billion. You can't really imagine how high this is going to go. Doge just went to 55, 60 billion. There's a lot of air now for the rest of that market to
And
kind
remember,
of
Nana,
pull
this is
themselves up.
without an Elon Musk tweet.
Yeah,
Remember,
well,
this move has Elon Musk said nothing other than the political proxy for the Department of whatever energy or something. But can you imagine if Elon Musk says something about the 50 billion market cap? I mean, the sky is the limit for Dogecoin. I agree with you. It's quite a spectacular story. Let's move on
Can I
to
just show the chart for
Yeah, go ahead.
Dogecoin?
Go ahead, CTO. What's your thoughts on that?
Can I show the screen? So
Yeah, go ahead.
I've zoomed out the weekly candle, so ignore the trend here, but I just want to show the 10-year view so we can see it on one screen. So here is December 2013. Here is roughly 10 years ago versus Bitcoin. So Dogecoin over 10 years has slightly beaten Bitcoin.
wow,
What a
like
crazy chart.
nothing else has done that. Is there any other coin in crypto that's done that?
No.
I think if we kind of go back to the daily time frame, just scroll through this a little bit. Like Dogecoin was the coin that was kind of cool to pump and dump. You can see here how it goes in these repetitive cycles, super predictable. And then it started going up a lot here when Elon Musk started talking about it. And then it has basically continued the same pattern here. And now
So that's a daily higher low, confirmed daily higher low and breakout. Pretty strong technical move. This could be Doge moving up quite considerably.
So I think this cult meme coin thing, it's not new. It's been here for 10 years. And I think like Mando, I think it's funny. It seems more harmless. It seems less of a threat to the establishment. It's some kind of funny thing. But yeah, it has beaten Bitcoin over 10
and we have
years.
to be clear to everyone in the audience, and a lot of people always ask me this question. The reason Doge is special and not just another meme coin is it is a blockchain. Doge is its own blockchain. And in fact, its Nakamoto coefficient is pretty high. It's extremely distributed. Dogecoin has thousands of nodes, including 7 at Starlink. So it's very special. It's not just another meme coin. It's a meme chain, if you want to put it like that. So I think that's also powering this move. It's a very special crypto in the crypto universe. James, any thoughts on Doge before we move on to Sui, Solana, and
I'm a traditional guy. I don't touch memes, so I'm out of my depth here. I can make a lot more money with a lot less risk in other ways, and that's kind of my focus. I need fundamentals.
I actually bought a bunch of Doge back in the day. I think it was in 2019, and I've held on to it. And obviously, it's performed really well. So I'm pretty stoked. But I haven't bought any more Doge, but I'm starting to consider trading it. So we'll see. That's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about some other stars of this week. Look at Sui, everyone. Sui ran up and passed pretty much everyone on the list that I thought they would pass in a record time. They're up to $3 a coin, 8.7 billion. They passed Chainlink. They passed very fast. Polkadot, obviously, we knew they were going to pass, but they passed Chainlink. So the question now is, what's next for Sui? Are they going to the top 10 faster than we thought? Which means they'd have to pass Ton, Avalanche, Shiba, the second biggest meme, and then Tron, and then touch on Cardano. Sui has just had an unbelievable run. We had a new project called Ica on my space yesterday, who came in and spoke about their new solution for MPC and for security, being able to run a single smart contract that talks to any blockchain natively on Sui. This project is just unbelievably technically and blowing up. Any thoughts on that, James? What are your thoughts on Sui? What you've seen?
I'm looking at our SCP profiler right now. There's 27 metrics in there. Sui wins 5. Solana wins 22. So let me walk through them. Nakamoto is better on Solana. It's the main way that Sui is a little bit better is the finality is half a second versus 2 seconds with Solana, but they're working on making finality faster. But now when you look at least how I appraise tokens and cryptos, I mean, Solana does a lot now because the market cap of Sui has gone up so fast. It's now expensive relative to Solana across 22 different ratios. And that's the interesting thing. And the other headache you have with SUI, of course, is the tokenomics are in a much better situation with Solana because it's a much older coin. You have a little bit of that Lindy effect, and you don't have that with SUI. And in full disclosure, I do have a SUI position, but it's about 2% the size of my Solana position. I still think for this run, Solana is still the top dog, and winner takes most.
Yeah, I think let's talk about Solana for a second. We all know Solana had a nice move up. Its all-time high is 250. I think it's setting up to break that all-time high any day now, any hour now. I think we're going to see a tragic move on Solana to the upside. But we saw a lot of metrics this week come out, Solana versus Ethereum in revenue, which you all know that I think market cap is a bogus metric. I think what's more important is things like true economic value and you know, the amount of revenue being made by the ecosystem and the applications running on a network. And Solana has recently passed Ethereum and is going into uncharted territory. We see this amazing chart from Synchronicity showing Solana's applications generating more revenue than Ethereum applications, and in a staggering way, up 109% to 120 million. What's your thoughts on that, James? So as far as metrics go, it looks like Solana is now passing Ethereum on all metrics. The only thing lagging potentially is the price at a third of the market cap.
Exactly. And that was kind of my whole thesis from 2021 was, well, this little chain is trading at like 1% of the market cap of ETH, but it's kind of has the potential to do more than ETH. I didn't think it would happen so fast. And here we are. Solana destroys ETH across all metrics, pretty much. And if you were to, again, value it, even if you compare, say, Solana to Bitcoin, it is drastically overvalued. And it's making so much money. But what you have to look at in anything when you're looking at disruption is you have to understand the rate of change. You can't look at a static point in time. You have to look at how fast it's growing and how much more money it's making every single week, every single month. It is absolutely face melting. ETH is stagnant. Solana is going to the moon. Solana trades at 30% of the ETH market cap. And even if you aggregate all the L2 action on top of ETH and all the revenue and all the users, Solana still smokes it. So it's still drastically undervalued. And the markets haven't figured it out yet because nobody does this work. So there will come a day, though. Maybe in 2025, we now know Gary Gensler will be gone and there will be a solid ETF.
I think we're in a little bit of a holding pattern to 2025. We've got the following things in Solana. First of all, 86.3% of Solana validators now are running version 2.0.15. Not reported heavily, but the majority of Solana is upgraded to Solana 2. There's now 4 Fire or Frankendancer validators running, and 1 Firedancer is now running on the network with 0.02 stake. I think the big events that are going to happen is the second Seeker phone will be coming out. I think they've been putting a lot of energy behind that, and apparently it's got some features you just cannot believe. So we've got Solana 2 rolling out, Firedancer coming in probably, they said, towards the end of the year, maybe early 2025. The Seeker phone, a lot of build up and hype happening. I agree it's undervalued, and I think the explosion will be pretty phenomenal, catch people off guard. As well as obviously stablecoin, we see PayPal picking up and Solana being sort of pinned as the stablecoin network of the future, and things like that. I see your metrics here look really great. I'd love to know, we know that Solana is doing roughly 50 million daily transactions and Ethereum doing roughly 1 million. Have you done the analysis to do all the L2s as well with Ethereum?
Yes.
What is the total?
Many times. If you include Base, that changes the game a little bit. But Base is a private Coinbase coin. But that's where all the action is gravitated to. I remember back in the day, it used to be all Matic. That was all the L2 action. And then it became all Arbitrum. Optimism never got there. And now it's all Base. So like we discussed many times in this channel, L2s are a band-aid. And then you have this private L2 Base, which is cannibalizing all the other L2s. And of course, the mothership Ethereum. I mean, Vitalik must be pulling his hair out because he knows the problem. If we can see the problem, he knows the problem. But he can't, ETH is such a big machine. It's like a A380 Airbus in the air. You can't take the wings off and put new wings on when it's in the air. And that's the problem. They're boxed in. And I'm sure, CTO, maybe you as a technologist can explain that better than I can.
Yeah. I think we talked about it many times over
Yeah.
the past, 1-2 years, that, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. I'm sure Vitalik and the whole team, they felt like the pressure of the global financial system on their shoulders. Everyone rely on that the transaction will just work, and all the USDT and USDC, and they got very careful with everything. It took like 6 years to do the proof of stake transition, and it's hard. Now come a new project that doesn't have any responsibilities to anyone. Just do it faster and better, and new projects screw everything. And if it goes down, that's not so bad. Even we can get it up and running again. And suddenly, then you have a much newer, faster, cheaper system that is good enough in many ways. And I think that's exactly what happened. So. And then, can that happen again? Of course it can. And that's what we have to keep an eye out for, see if we can identify if that transition happens again. Can someone disrupt Solana next? And that's what we have to be look for, and because it can happen. It always feels impossible until it happens. I think going back 1-2 years, no one thought anyone would threaten Ethereum seriously, but here we are.
Yeah,
So,
by the way, guys, if you want to hear a really good talk between Anatoly and Mert, look at the latest Lightspeed podcast. Had them both on doing a really critical analysis of where they are with the hard questions and the hard answers. And he talks about Ethereum. He talks about everything. Lightspeed's a great podcast. It's a Solana-based podcast. Check it out. Yes.
Can I just show the Sui chart also, just to wrap the topic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think a lot of credit to Marty here. You talked, I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was when you started bringing it up on this show, it was kind of here. It was like a perfect setup. We had this, horizontal neckline that broke and retested, and it was here. It was a beautiful, beautiful entry. And now price moved up here. Then it kind of fell down this, but now it's back up again. I mean, this is the Sui to BTC chart. I think in this bull market, it's pointless to look at altcoins versus USD. I mean, all altcoins versus USD almost will be up. But why would you be in an altcoin if Bitcoin is going up more? We have to even consider something else at this point. It has to go faster than Bitcoin. And so I'm looking at the Sui to BTC chart. And I mean, this chart looks good here still. It's one of the few ones that actually looks good. Another one was DOGE we looked at. Another one that is still holding up is Solana to BTC. But I mean, over the course of 2024, from here, say 1st of January, it's pretty much exactly flat. So even like the winner of this whole year that has taken the fanfare from Ethereum and dominated the meme coin establishment, has been much of the trend for 2024, even Solana is exactly flat against Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been on such a tear, and almost everything else is massively down.
Can you show us BNB BTC? We need to talk about BNB, guys. We've been watching this. The volatility has been saying something is happening at BNB. Now, legally, in some legal news, we'll talk about FTX before we close the show, but we saw that FTX has sued Binance. This is quite an important thing, and people haven't really paid attention. But FTX is suing Binance. If you remember, there was several huge transactions, approximately $1.8 billion of transactions from 2021 with Binance that FTX is now saying that were all fraudulent, because at that point in time FTX was bankrupt, and this is particularly naming CZ. And right after this lawsuit got announced, we saw BNB falling to the point now where it is at. I mean, pull up BNB.D, CTO, Binance dominance.
And there's no doubt in my mind CZ did some shady stuff in 2021. Everybody was doing shady stuff.
Look at that. Now tell me what you see there, CTO.
Yeah, that's a huge drop. That's a phenomenal. I mean, it is definitely a change here, like which happened, 3 days ago? Because this support was holding, and then suddenly, boom, it dropped, it fell off. So there's definitely a change there. And sometimes there's some point to it. But wouldn't that be like the worst possible development? I mean, they've been through all Binance's financials, and they, unlike the others, actually hadn't lost anyone's money. Imagine now if FTX, with a criminal neglect, actually gets to go and take money from Binance that actually hadn't lost everyone's money. That would be a new level of disaster, actually. But I mean, there are these kind of clawback rules and so on, which is very weird that kind of they let that continue, that financial transactions are not final, that if someone withdraws money from a centralized exchange and that exchange goes bankrupt later, that someone can come and reclaim that money back.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
So let's summarize. Go ahead.
Sorry, just interject slightly. I think part of this is just the Coinbase trade still, right? Like Trump getting in, a clean sweep in the US means that Coinbase, they're going to promote it. I think they're going to really champion it, which has been so weird over the last 4 years that the SEC has really come after Coinbase. I think what you could end up seeing here is the SEC and the DOGE like basically settle everything with the US-based exchanges, and then they keep on going after the foreign-based exchanges. So like, don't be surprised if Binance continues to have the crosshairs in it for the SEC and the DOJ. Coinbase to me post this election is one of the most obvious longs in global markets. Like, I don't try and paint me why Coinbase is going lower. Like there is no reason why Coinbase is going lower.
There's one threat. One is there's one thing I don't like about Coinbase is heavy stock-based compensation, insider payments.
Right.
And the second thing is we know we're moving to a decentralized world. Sexes, like centralized exchanges, in my opinion, are going to wither on the vine. Like I go to a centralized exchange to buy a crypto to move to a DEX and trade it there. I don't trade on Coinbase. Haven't done in years. And I think that's the big threat.
I think the only way that one of the only ways that crypto is going to be accepted as strongly as it is in the US, particularly by institutions, is with centralization at some stage. I think Coinbase champions that. Even if crypto OGs don't like it, I think people want to have custody, particularly institutions. Like they're all partnering with Coinbase for custody. They'll all partner with it for some of the payment stuff that they're going to do, for tokenization. Like, I don't know. For me, as I said last week, let's say the majors that we talk about every single week are Solana, Bitcoin, ETH, Coinbase, MicroStrategy. Coinbase just jumps out at me after this election and goes, right, that's the one. Like all the others, yeah, we're talking about Bitcoin dominance, and that one's difficult to judge, but I don't see a world where Coinbase doesn't continue.
I mean, some Coinbase highlights. They announced also today a S&P 500 product they've just launched called Crypto 50, the 50 top crypto products. So Coinbase is trying to position as a sort of an S&P as well, have their own index. I think on the custody perspective, BNY Mellon, and there will be more competitors to Coinbase custody to break that monopoly. That's potentially a risk to them. They've obviously gone balls to the wall with BTC, deploying it on Solana, etc. But obviously, there's a lot of discussion about centralization around that. So I think Coinbase is a really interesting situation. I agree with you, Mando. I think they're going to. We need to pay attention to Coinbase. They're potentially approaching monopoly level, and that's not a good thing. And but at the end of the day, they deliver unbelievably fast with a lot of production. Let's talk a little bit about moving forward, guys. Bitcoin bull run indicators. We've all seen the charts. We know the Trump victory is extremely bullish. We see now that Google searches for Bitcoin, which has been lagging for years, has finally shot up. And that is usually our signal that we're about to enter the what I call distribution whack-off, right? Where all that accumulation by institutions will now be sold at a markup to the retail world, which will probably always follow. It always goes Bitcoin trends on Google, then we see television commercials, BlackRock pushing Bitcoin on TV, and then we see, the retail FOMO. So we've got a lot of indicators. We've got this. We've got, if you look at any chart, you'll see positioning for the bull run. We've got supply shock, OTC desks reporting they have no more Bitcoin, record low on reserves. Anybody got any other Bitcoin bull run indicators? James, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, again, it goes back to the macro situation. So if you imagine the asset that is Bitcoin right now, so it's a $1.7 trillion market cap, retail can no longer move it. This time is different. In the last 14 years, yeah, retail could move the needle. It's not a retail game anymore. The game I see has transitioned to ETF, sovereigns, pensions, and after that, more institutional treasury adoption. They are the four horsemen of this pump. Retail cannot move the needle. Big retail, like billionaires and decamillionaires and centimillionaires can, but not the average retailer person who's DCAing $50 a week into Bitcoin. That doesn't matter. It's gone. That's history. So this Google retail excitement is not going to move the needle. BlackRock buying $1 billion a day moves the needle. So it's all relative, and that's the big change this time around. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, it's a very interesting point James is bringing up for the audience, is that crypto might have moved out of the retail sector. It might be something for the wealthy and for the corporations, institutions, and sovereign countries as a reserve asset. What might be for the retailers is going to be stablecoin.
Memes. That's where they're going. They're looking at $88,000 Bitcoin or a 0.001 cent meme coin. You know what they're going to buy. Mando? You're smiling.
Look, I feel like that. I feel as though you have to detach yourself from whether you think memes are a worthwhile are worthy of your intellect, or if you think that people are going to buy them. And I just think people are going to buy them. Like if crypto becomes big, meme coins, I think they'll just rampage. Like people are going crazy. You can already see it now. Like I have people texting me being like, what memes should I buy? They're not saying like, oh, what should I buy? People from the TradFi world, right? And that just says everything to me. It's just like, yes, like, yeah, you can think that they're just silly, but that's what people think they can make the most on the quickest. And that's where people will be drawn to for speculation.
Okay, and to wrap up the show, guys, let's just talk about this week. We've got OPEC today. In some macro news, we've got US CPI today. We've got PPI Thursday. We've got Powell speaking on Thursday. I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Powell where he got extremely defensive when asked whether he would step down if Trump asked him to. And he was calling on the law, saying that Trump couldn't, and getting very defensive.
I like that.
Yeah, very interesting times for Jerome Powell. We've got US retail sales on Friday, and a total of 12 Fed will speak this week. Other things going on, we haven't spoken about the FTX repayments. Obviously, now we know they delayed the payments to creditors till after this pump, which is quite cruel. But that's going to happen. Very bullish event coming in. And then, James, pull up that slide with Trump. Just to conclude, I mean, we know the campaign trail was full of promises, but he said this in a Fox News interview. This is transcribed. He said his agenda for the crypto industry will be to create a strategic national Bitcoin stockpile, fire SEC Chair Gary Gensler, and I actually have a short list of people that have been recommended. Let me read it to you.
The lady will get it. Hester Pierce has it in the bag.
Yeah, we've got Hester Pierce, a couple of other people. You can see it on my X page. Name a presidential advisory council on crypto regulation. Now, we all know the speculation coming from Charles Hodgkins is that he'll be involved, and that caused a big Cardano spike. We'll see how long that lasts. We haven't heard any official word on that, but he thinks.
Yeah, who honestly would? That's an interesting topic for people, because I privately messaged a couple people and said, well, I've been in Cardano for years, and what should I do now? I said, take profits. Who honestly here believes, from the three of you guys, that there's any legs to that story? Mando.
What, that Hodgkinson's going to define US policy?
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening, but like, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be a cornerstone of the US crypto policy. Let's put it that way.
There we go. CTO, what's your thoughts on the Cardano thing? Do you think Charles Hodgkins is making
what Charles Hodgkinson has is that he's very good at talking, and he's very good at appearing very credible and very knowledgeable. So that might work. I'm not ruling that out, because that kind of style and appearing very credible and mathematic, sort of pen in the shirt pocket kind of guy. It could work. Don't know. No idea. I think if there's any truth to it, which I have no idea if it is, any crypto guy coming in would be helpful. At the end of the day, it would benefit all chains. But I don't know. I don't have any indication if it's true. The chart made a massive pump, but it's still down versus BTC by a lot over the year.
Great. And then obviously, let's continue with that slide. Stop work on a central bank digital currency now, which is quite alarming, thinking that implies that there was work to try and make a central bank digital currency. We know that I had Perrin Boring from the Bitcoin lobby group saying that the Treasury was outsourcing the CBDC to the public networks as stablecoin. Quite an interesting thing, but we'll see. Trump saying he's going to stop that. We know that in Florida, that DeSantis actually banned CBDC, and a lot of states, red states, will probably continue. So with this election, we might see the CBDC in the US dropping right off the radar. And then obviously fostering stable coins, digital tokens that are pegged to the dollar. And we all know there's a couple of those that have been in the works. We've got the Loomis Gillibrand Payment Stablecoin Act by Cynthia Loomis. That's up for vote. That might be pushed forward now with a Trump victory. We've got the Stablecoin Transparency Act, S3970. We've got that one. We've got the banking license enforcement for stable. Guys, there is a tremendous amount. At least 4 Senate votes on stable coins that have been pending with the last administration that are probably going to get voted through. And trust me, when these things pass, crypto will go to the moon. Okay? We're going to see US-backed stablecoins as legal tender in the Western world. You have no idea what that's going to happen. And to conclude the show, let's just go around the room and talk about the coming week, your feelings for the week, and what we should expect for the next show next Monday. Go around the room. Mando, what are your feelings for the week before we wrap up?
I think we're going to chop here, if I'm honest. My honest opinion is that we're not going to go straight to 100K. Like, I think we could be in this sort of period around 90K, 85 to, let's say, just above 90K or 80 to 95K for a bit. I think we'll hit 100K before Christmas or before the year end, but I don't think we're like teleporting to 120K. That's just my gut, just because I've seen these sort of chops before. Funding went up a little bit, and I don't know. I don't think it's overly frothy. I just know that crypto can sometimes chop for a little bit, but we definitely should have bought that breakout. Obviously it moved 20% since that all-time high. I just think that at least for the next week we chop.
There we go. CTO, thoughts for the week?
Yeah, I think the fake outs, the drama will continue. And a day like this, or a day like yesterday, everyone expects that suddenly the price will start moving in a straight line up forever. It's not going to be like that. That's what I can almost promise. The FUD, the fakes, the misinformation, the manipulation is only going to get more, I think. So I think keep that in mind. The day when it feels like it's over, it was a scam pump, there's some bad news coming, prices down. Okay, maybe that's the dip if the uptrend is still intact. And the other way around also, don't do the most common mistake. The most common mistake people do when they are new is that they actually bought sometime early. They're up, 1,000%, but they still manage to lose money in the end because they buy more and more the higher we go, and they buy the most exactly on the top because that's when the euphoria is at its peak. So then even if price is just down a little and they're still up like 500% from their first buy, they still lost money in the end. So don't do that mistake, guys. Don't buy at the peak or top. Buy some other time, at support or at breakout or something.
Terrific. James, summary, what should we expect from the week? What do you see? Predictions?
It's on the board. The Bitcoin price is the billboard. But again, I'm just a data guy. This is what people need to look at. Again, 12,580 Bitcoin need to be bought today. That was the ETF cash flow yesterday. We're T+1. And all those rumors flying around the internet yesterday is like OTC desks, the cupboard is bare, all that type of stuff. There might be 100,000 left, but at this rate, we're talking days before it's wiped out. And I know Saylor's going to buy again before the year end. Could be another $2 billion, could be $4 billion. And then you have all the miners, and there's a lot of sovereign states mining on the sly right now, very quietly. China, El Salvador, Bhutan, all these weird places that you never heard of before. They're not selling their Bitcoin, okay? The Marathon stacking, CleanSpark stacking, they're not selling their Bitcoin either. Where are the ETFs going to get their coinage? That's the question people have to ask. And it goes to the fundamentals of economics, supply and demand. Demand is going through the freaking roof. You can see it right here. Where's the supply going to come from? And there, from all the on-chain metrics that I look at, there is no sell pressure. The folks, everybody said once Bitcoin hits new all-time highs, the long-term holder is going to sell. They're sitting on their hands because the long-term holders understand how this thing works. And they know it's going higher. So my 2 cents for the week.
There you go. And I'm going to be the contrarian. I think we absolutely will hit 100,000 before the next show next Monday. It's only a 12% move from here. I believe we're going to do possibly 8% over the next 48 hours, pull back another 2%, and then we'll see 100,000. Will it be long-lived? I'm not sure. I think there will be a sell-off at 100,000. Even myself, it's a great psychological level, right? If you've been holding Bitcoin for years, 100,000 is always sort of your number to finally spoil yourself. So, and make a taxable event. I think a lot of people do the same thing. I think next time we have the show, we will have touched 100,000. I'll leave it at that.
That's super bullish. And you know, after doing a $10,000 candle almost in 24 hours, it's reaching distance. The question is, the only question is, what's on the OTC desks? We know money's coming in. The Bernstein thing yesterday, I can't remember the exact wordage. It's like this is not a warning or something. It's like, buy now. Allocate to Bitcoin now. This is urgent. I can't remember the exact verbiage they used, but that was like a 10 alarm fire. Stack it. And they have the ear of TradFi. So all the normies are going to be saying, well, if Bernstein is pounding their fist on the table, we better do something.
There we go, boys. That was a terrific show. Everyone in the audience, I hope you had a great week, and looking forward to another great week. Enjoy the pump. Respect the pump. Another warning before we move. Do not get scammed. When crypto pumps, the scammers come out. They're going to try everything. Never click anything unsolicited. Never click anything, in fact. Don't click a damn thing this week. Okay? Be very careful of
don't
scamming.
answer your phone and don't send anything to anybody. It's that simple.
There we go.
Those rules, and then you're safe. Thank you, Marty.
We'll be back on Monday next week. I believe this was an excellent show.
Next week. It's going to be Tuesday again next week because there's another travel conflict. Yeah.
Okay, so Tuesday again next week. There we go. Thanks, Mando, James, CTO.
Right,
I'm Marty Party. Enjoy. Everyone enjoy the pump. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Adios.